Well, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faye's Angels. I am excited about this show. I'm. We are going to. My very special guest will be coming on with me very shortly. But I would like to just share with you a little bit of how we got together, how I even met her in the first place. Before we get going, we're going to be sharing her story and her compelling story about how Nicole found her birth mother. Hi, Lisa. How are you today? Thank you for coming and joining my show. I'm very glad you're here. Before we get going with Nicole and before I bring her on board, I would like to just give you a little backstory about how we met, how Nicole and I met. But first of all, for those who don't know me, or even if for those who don't know what Faye's Angels is all about, this is an interactive show that is a kind of a spin-off of two other shows that I co-host with my husband, Roger Garza Sr. He is a psychic medium. We have two shows. One's on Wednesday. It's Latino Psychic Visions, and it's where people have a chance to chat with the psychic medium, get a few readings, and get to connect with each other. We also have a show on Saturday morning called This Mug's for You. And it's a little more of a casual show, you could say. Um, and on these shows, there these interactive shows. Sometimes there are some, and during the readings, there are some topics that come up that, due to the time frame and because there's so many readings, um, there's no chance to talk about some of the topics that come up. And so this is how this show got developed. My mission is to bring to you, our usual viewers, and any other guests that are coming onto the show, information and inspiration that are talked a little bit about on our shows. Hi, Leona. Hi, Herbie. Good to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Um, and this is, I hope this show, and I know this show will give you all a little bit of inspiration. And I think it is really um, uh, a good subject because we're onto the Christmas time, and it's all about family, and this is just a wonderful story. I met Nicole through her birth mother, Patty, and I'll give you that background. My husband, the psychic medium Roger Garza Sr., is also a musician, and he plays every Sunday at the American Legion in St. Paul. And Patty is often there. She works there, and I got to meet Patty. And Patty is a person who has known the band that Roger plays in, some of the members, for a long, long time, and everyone loves Patty, and she's well respected by everyone. I also got to know her, and I know why they love her so much. She's full of energy. She's crazy. She's wonderful. And so one evening, Patty came to the gig, and she had to tell me something. Um, and this is what she said to me, I think. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know I can't remember everything. She goes that her daughter is going to be coming in. I said, "Oh, that's really cool. Great." And she says, "Well, this is her daughter that she had to give up when she was very young. Her daughter found her." I said, "Get shut up." She goes, "Yes. I just got together with my daughter that I had to give up at her, after giving birth to her so years ago." And I said, "Patty, that is," I could start crying right now when I heard the story. So not only did I meet Nicole, but we all found out that she had a great talent, and it was her voice. Before we get Nicole on stage, I'd like to give you a little clip. Now, remember, I'm taking this clip of her singing with the band, they had no idea that this lady had this voice. They barely could understand the information that she was Patty's daughter. They're all just overwhelmed. And then she opened her mouth. I'm going to go. Here goes. Let me just give you this little sample. There she is. So, without any further hesitation, I would like to introduce to you Nicole Pratt. That was her on stage. Here you go. Hi.
Well,
Hi.
hello.
There she do-do-do. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. First of all, thank you for agreeing to be on the show and sharing your story, your very compelling story. Um, I am amazed by the story um, and your search for your mom. And before we get into that, though, I just want to know when did you find that voice of yours? How did that come about?
Well, it's funny because so I'll tell you the entire story. We'll get into that, but it's funny because my mom, who adopted me, said
Hmm.
I came home singing.
Oh, when you were born,
Yeah,
you mean?
she said when she got me, I came home singing, and I haven't shut up since. So it's, I think it's been an all my life thing, which is there's some interesting little tidbits along the way that I've learned as to where it comes from, and everything kind of all makes sense now,
Yes,
which is pretty great.
that
So,
is cool. I want to just give you a picture of little Nicole. How old were you there? Do you know?
boy, I was in elementary school. I don't even know.
Yeah,
I don't even know how old I was.
look at that beautiful face.
Maybe
Okay.
7. I don't know. What do you think? 7?
Yeah, that looks like about right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, Mary, thanks everybody for showing up. It's wonderful for you guys that you guys are able to join me in learning a little bit about Nicole and her story. Mary says, "Welcome, Nicole. Great song." Yeah,
Oh, thank you. It is
and
a great song.
huh?
It is a great song.
It is a great song, and the funny thing is that the band had to kind of pick it up. Roger, my husband Roger, was standing next to you, and he was, listening to you and doing all the. I don't know how he does what he does, but anyway, I don't know how all the members do what they do.
I don't either.
They pick it up. They probably played it some other time, and it's back in their, wherever they have it, and
Or they look at each other.
or they
I
yeah
don't know
they
how that
do.
works either.
They C, I don't know, C or G or whatever they say. I don't know even what key that is in. Do you know what key that is in?
No, I still don't. They tell me every time, but I still don't.
That is
Oh,
so
yeah.
cool. So anyway, there you are with this talent. Um, Let me just get this off. This is, you have this talent, so I guess we could just get started here.
We can't.
I can't hear you. Any, I'm getting little tips from husband in the other room. Sorry, but anyway.
It's an F sharp.
He
Oh,
says, did you hear him? Hey, Roger, come here. Roger, come here.
yes,
He needs to make a cameo appearance.
he does.
He
Can't use at home.
No,
That's my
yeah, I
daughter.
know.
Hey, Dad.
So, did you like that clip I had for you?
See,
Yeah.
mine was buffering though.
Are you on Facebook or YouTube?
No, I was on YouTube.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. Well,
Maybe it was my guitar player now.
it was.
It might have been.
Good to see you on.
Good to see you.
So, I don't know where I was going. Anyway,
You're going to sit down.
you're going to go sit down. Also you are in a band right now. You are part of a band.
Yeah.
And what is your band's name?
My band is called Weekend Rock Star.
I'm going to try to put that up on the
Yeah.
slide.
Look at that.
There it is.
Yep.
There she is. And you're kind of busy with Weekend Rockstar. You're all over the Twin Cities. What is
Yeah.
your is right? And what is your genre? Are you rock?
We are. We're more
Yeah?
rock than anything. Yeah. I'm on stage with a bunch of rockers, so I had to learn how to sing rock.
What's your favorite? Do you have any favorite? Is this kind of your thing too? Do you like that genre? Or
I do because it's challenging. But I started out very much a country singer. I was a country singer I used to be told when I was in middle school and high school, when I started singing in choir, that I sang too twangy, or I sang out of my nose, and it sounded too country. And that's
Oh,
what I grew up on. So I think it was embedded in, my head. And
yeah. Well, whatever you do is we
I was
love
okay
it.
with
It's
that.
really
I
it's
was
really
okay
a
with that.
yeah. I mean, it works for me. Whatever the twang is, I don't care. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
You blow everybody's. You don't even need a microphone. Tell you the truth. You could still
I'm
have
always
you
like,
heard?
am I too loud? And I'll say this, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I know where my spiciness and my loudness now comes from.
We're going to get to that a little
Yes,
bit,
we
aren't
are.
we? Okay. So, uh, I'm going to just kind of put up some pictures now of your family, your adopted family.
Yeah.
We can get started with that. So, I'm so happy to be able to share with everyone your adopted family. And here we go. So that's your mom, Veldina, right? And Ken?
Valdine. Yep.
Veldine and Ken,
Yep.
and your brother of
Gary.
that family,
Yep.
Daryl?
Gary.
Oh, Gary.
I call
Okay.
him Gary. He likes Garrett, but I
Okay.
call him Gary. So,
Okay. I'm going to bring
yeah,
up some others too here. I'm just kind of new at this. I didn't even know about this feature until like I'm just continually learning. Here is I've got mom and dad here. Oh, there they are.
yeah,
Yeah. So these this beautiful lady and handsome gentleman um adopted you
they did.
and they gave you I'll let you tell the story.
They did. And I'm going to answer. I see that Lisa asked if Gary was adopted as well, and he is. He is adopted from a different family, and he is 5 years older than I am. Um, and my parents adopted him when he was right around the age of 2. I want to say 22 months or 24 months old.
Okay.
So, and he, just a little side note of about him, is he also met his birth family, but many years ago, which was kind of
Okay.
ironic because um, growing up, it was just the opposite. I was always the one that wanted to find my birth family, and he was the guy in the family, and he's like, I don't need to find my birth family. Um, I have my family, and I don't know where that came from. Maybe it's the difference between a girl guy thing, but nonetheless, he grew up never having a desire to meet his birth family. And I always was the one that was going to meet my birth family. There was never any wavering from that growing up, even as a
Right.
little kid. So
So yeah, cuz so did you said to me that you said to me when we talked a little bit about this that you always knew that you were adopted.
I
Can you
did.
explain can you explain that?
Um, yep. So uh, I a lot of people ask me that over the years, and they've said, "Well, when do you remember ever being told that you were adopted?" And my answer is always, "No, I never remember being told. There was never a conversation like about that I was adopted. Sure, we had conversations about what it meant, and all different questions that come up when you're growing up, but it was never a discussion about, hey, we have something to tell you that we'd like to talk to you about. You're adopted. I always knew. So
Why did what
I
were some of
can't.
the reasons you always knew besides being a little bit psychic perhaps? I don't know.
Because my mom always used to tell me that I wasn't. There's a poem. You're not the blood of my blood, but child of mine you are, and it's a very beautiful poem. I don't have it handy, but um, so she always used to tell me, "You are not mine, but I love you enough, and you're my daughter." And it just it was always the conversations were always wrapped around you were loved so very much that
Mhm,
we were chosen to be your parents at a time when you needed a mom and a dad. And
mhm.
again, I just never remember being told. And I do know this about my adopted mom as well, is that she was very adamant about making sure I knew everything she could share about me to me.
Mhm.
Meaning, one very good example of that is we lived on it was really weird. Growing up, I lived on a small street in a small neighborhood, and three of us right in a row, um, three families had adopted children. And it was
Wow.
I know my family, a family right directly across from us, and one next door. And my mom and dad and their best friends, which were next door to us, um, always had the same feeling that it was our right to know, and they shared that with us. And they were different from the people across the street because even as they got into their teen years, the children did not know they were adopted. And my mom was livid about that decision that they made because she just felt it was not fair, not to share that with the kids. Obviously, she let them do their thing, and that was their family. But she just felt very strongly that it needed to be shared because I had every right to know. So, which I think is great. Did I lose you? Oh, Lisa, that's very cool. I don't know if you guys can still see me. Faye has disappeared a little bit. Hopefully she'll get back on. Lisa, that's really cool about that book that's going to be published. I will definitely have to look at that. It's interesting because I think, oh, good. I'm glad you can see me. I'm glad that a lot of people talk about being adopted, and I'm glad that people write books about it. I think about that too. But there she is.
Continuing on, the rock star that you are, StreamYard popped me out, but it kept you going. I'm glad.
It did. So I'm talking to everybody.
Yay. Yay. Oh my God.
I just was saying, Lisa made a comment earlier that there is a book being published titled "The Girl with Three Birthdays." I think that is such a cool title.
Right.
It's about somebody else that was adopted and her journey.
I see that.
So that's really cool.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
cool. I might be having trouble with this platform I'm on because I've got so many pictures of you. I don't mean to blame you or anything.
Right?
But I mean, I don't know. It's when I started to remember a couple days ago or whenever we were trying to share your clip. I think you lost me again, and I think I said I hope this doesn't happen again. Well, there it did. It happened on my end. It could have been but I'm glad everybody stayed with me. Thank you, everyone, for staying with me. I'm just the interviewer. Anyway.
So just to finish my, I gave an example of the fact that you would ask me, how did I know? Or how was it ever that I never remember being told I was adopted? And I think from the very beginning, I'll say some things now and then that sound kind of strange, or I'll say this sounds kind of strange, and this is one of them. But I think that was one of the very first gifts that my adopted mom gave me, and that was to be honest with me and tell me how very much I was loved, and that it was always a positive spin on being adopted. I do know that there are some people that get very angry about being adopted and think that maybe why me and why this. I look at it differently. I look at it as, number one, thank God I was loved enough by my birth mom. No matter how that came about, no matter the bad situation that she may have been in at the time, thank God she loved me enough or cared enough not to make another decision where I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And give me the chance to have another family. And being a mom myself, I can't even wrap my head around, and I'm adopted. I can't even wrap my head around having to give my child up for adoption.
Right.
I don't think I'll ever be able to wrap my head around that, even being in the situation that I am. With
Right.
that said, going back to my adopted parents, I think that was the best gift that they gave me is telling me right from the start that I wasn't them, I wasn't theirs
Hmm.
by
But
blood, but I certainly was loved enough from my birth
right.
family and from them because they're going to take the reins and raise me,
Well,
and that
Patty
they
certainly made a huge sacrifice
oh my god,
by
I mean,
giving you up and trusting the people that she's giving them up
yeah,
to, you up to, that you're going to have a good life. And I'm sure that I can't imagine how that just made her. I don't know what that. I can't imagine
I
that
know,
feeling.
yeah,
And you, as a mother yourself, you know, how can it's hard, but she
yeah,
did it totally the most selfless
yep,
act a mother can give is giving a child.
100%, yeah,
So that's good. So I mean, so at what point in your life, oh, I'm gonna kind of add something that said,
yeah,
kind of a Kathy Hanley. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you today on my show. I'm so glad you joined us. She said that she gave up her daughter and she's been trying to find her when she turned 18. We finally got together in 2019, a
oh
couple
well,
of months after her husband passed. Her adopted father passed the same year. That is
wow,
wonderful, Kathy. That is so wonderful. See, I mean, it's crazy how you have, this your story resonates with many people. I'm sure of it, you know. And so she adds, I'm going to give you what she adds. She says she feels that they're both from Spirit Guide. I feel that they are both with Spirit Guide, or I'm not okay. But yeah, they're with they got, I don't know how to put that together. But anyway, they were both her adopted father passed when she that same year. So that's very beautiful.
yeah, that's awesome that
Hmm.
that connection was made. One of the as we get into the story a little bit more, one of the things that was asked of me when I dropped the big bomb on my birth family. Hello, guess who's here? When I
Yeah, I want
dropped
to know
that
what that
bomb,
was like. I want to know what
yeah,
that's like.
yeah, I'll tell you all about it.
Good.
um, so one of the things was why now?
Yeah.
And it was simply this. Uh I waited all my life to be able to make the connection and answer questions that I had about Nicole and about where I came from, who I look like, um, where some of my mannerisms come from, where everything. I wanted some of those questions answered, and I didn't want to wait so long that I missed that opportunity because I never would have forgiven myself.
Right.
And even if and even if the time was not right for others, at that point it wasn't about anybody else but me. And that may
Mhm.
sound selfish, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Because during this whole thing, I think everybody has a little bit or a little piece of selfishness, and that's okay
Hmm.
because it sure is a big thing. It's a huge thing for everybody, and so at that time, it was right for me, and so I did it, and that's why, because I didn't want to wait too long. And
Right.
unfortunately, I will say this: unfortunately, my I did find out along the way that my birth father had passed away at a very young age, and at first was so incredibly heartbroken to learn that and be like, "Oh my God, I waited too long! I waited too long! I did it!" But to find out that, I mean, he passed away very young, and so have been nothing. I would have been 13, 12 or 13 at the time. There would have been no way at that time in my life I was ready
Hmm.
um, to be able to start having the questions. The questions really didn't start coming and the being a rotten teenager didn't come until about age 13.
Yeah,
So
you said,
uh,
so what did you
at
find out?
11.
Did you, I remember talking to you and you said that at about age 13, when you were being, age 13 with your mom, your
Yes.
adopted mom, that, uh, but she was always honest with you, and I'm sure she was guiding you through all that as well. And
Oh yeah.
you started getting really curious about your family, your mother, your birth mother. And did she share with you some documents? How did that go? Can you tell me a
So
little bit about that?
yeah. So one of I mean, and I can't remember all the specifics back then about my questions, but
Sure.
the questions as a teenager is, as it started, it was fighting with your mom as a teenager, saying you're not my real mom. Oh my God. And it just makes me cringe to think about that now, saying that to my mom because she was just so great. Uh, but
You were being a you
nonetheless,
you were just being a teenager.
right,
I've heard a
right.
lot worse.
Uh,
I mean,
I'm sure
really.
it got I'm sure it got worse, but
Okay,
she
okay.
chased me with a wooden spoon, so there was a good there was a good thing there too. She kept
Yeah,
me in line when I needed it.
yeah.
So the thing was is that at 13 I had questions, and those questions were, God, I don't look like anybody, and I what can we do? Is there anything that we can do? The curiosity started coming out, and so
Mhm.
um at that point my adopted parents knew where, obviously, where they adopted me from, and so that's where she started. She wrote a letter to the adoption agency where I was adopted from, Catholic Charities, and basically asked if there was any information in my file that they could share.
Mhm.
And I don't remember the time frame on how long it took to get back, but back then we wrote letters, right, by hand.
Right.
And so, and we ended up getting a document back. And so I'm going to share this with everybody and just make sure that you remember this part of the story. In this document, it's very non-descriptive in terms of uh, where they lived, places they worked, specific things like that. The only thing on this document is a very high level um, description about what age my birth mom was, what age my birth dad was, how many siblings they had, um, their religious, their religion, and just very high level, nondescript, so that I can't take it, right, and go, oh, I'm going to go find this person. I know based on
Mhm.
this letter how I can go find them.
Mhm.
So we got this, and it was really cool. I still to this day have that paper, and I actually was able to share it with my birth mom and sister and brother, and the rest of the I think the rest of the family I've shared it with, or I've talked about it. But um at the time it answered some questions, maybe not what I looked like or who I looked like or anything specific that maybe I really was just looking for, but nonetheless, there was one piece of that always stuck with me. And that was that I was from a very large family, first of all. Um, it gave a description of my mom, my birth mom, being very young. And it said that she had multiple siblings, and that um, they were Catholic, and it just gave kind of high level. And then whoever was being interviewed that gave that information also gave information on my birth dad, saying he was this age, and he, at the time of your adoption, he had three siblings, and just, again, very high level. And at the very end of that document, it said the reason for adoption. And the reason for adoption was because my birth mom already had a child that she kept. And that child was a full sibling to myself. So right there, I hung on to that like nothing for the last 51 years. I had a sister
Mhm.
that had the same mom and dad, and I was kind of like, you always go through that too. I was never bad. It was like she kept her. and and but then you think about it, and my birth mom she was 17 years old when she had me. Now, mind you, just 17.
Yeah.
So she was 15, 16, 17 when all of this was happening with two children, being a kid herself.
Yeah.
So I, again, there was
Mhm.
never any anger, never
No.
any, I just didn't understand it, but that was okay.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting. And I want to just say, for 51 years, I knew that I was from a large family and that I had a sister. And
Just a little tidbit question.
yeah,
Do you think that you do you think that you cross paths with your family, that large family? Did you ever talk about that now that you're
yeah.
together? Did that topic ever,
Oh,
comparing some of the stuff or I
yeah,
mean,
it's kind of funny.
you've been performing all over the Twin Cities as
Oh,
an adult and but
yes.
besides that, I mean, do you think you already almost said, "Oh,
I don't
I think I
know.
know you."
I know. I don't know how I could not have, right? Because there's so many. I mean, there's so many in the family. It's
Right.
phenomenal. It was funny because my mom the other day said, "Well, we went to the Como Zoo and we did this," and I'm like, "You went there too? I went there too.
Yeah, well,
Maybe we were there at the same time."
yeah,
So
you never know.
it's funny to laugh about that stuff, but
Yeah,
one of the serious parts of being somebody who never met never met her family for years, being an adult, is that exact same thing. I used to go out and sing on stage, and I would look at everybody going, do they look like me? Do they look like me? They don't really look like me. They definitely don't look like me. So
well,
I was always curious and
right,
looking,
right,
but
and wondering. And I
yes.
bet you Patty was looking too. I bet you Patty was wondering, "Is that my daughter is" I mean, I don't
Oh,
know. I'm
I
sure
don't know
that
how again, being
yeah,
just talking from a mom side,
yeah,
uh, I don't know how you couldn't. I did
I'm
ask
sure
her
she has.
at one point. I said, "Did you think about me on my birthday?" And she said every year she thought about me. And I actually on my birthday every year had hoped that she thought
Mhm.
about me. I just hoped that she, had wondered where I was
Oh,
as
I'm
much
sure
as I
she
had
did.
wondered. So,
And
yeah.
the thing is that Patty did not, tell the rest of her family about you, did she? Or did she her kids, she didn't tell her kids about you, did she?
Right. It
So you
was
were a big surprise, you were a
I
big surprise.
was. I was.
I'm gonna
And
try, Nicole, I'm gonna try to put this picture of your
oh yeah,
newborn picture without I hope I don't kick myself out, so
boot
if
it off
folks
again.
get ready get ready, folks, for Nicole to do this all by herself,
Right.
and I'll try to get back in. Hold on. Here we go. Oh, doo-doo. It's coming up, it's taking a while.
Oh, that's me.
Is it showing?
Yep, it is.
Okay.
So there's a funny story behind this too. I never had this. I never had this picture of myself. Um,
Mhm.
because when you're being given up for adoption, as I understand it, they don't really take pictures of the newborn that's going to be given up for adoption. And I
Wow.
think it was almost a mistake that it was taken.
Yeah.
And my mom, being the mom that she is,
Yep.
makes me just giggle. She had the she took it. She took
She
it
took
from the
it.
hospital. And
Good for her.
so the only picture that I have as a baby, it goes back to when I was 1 month when my adopted parents brought me home. So those were the first pictures. So I never had my newborn picture. And she kept it all these years.
Isn't
And
that
so when
something?
I met her,
Yeah.
and my brother and sister, when I met her, she had this there for me. It was the coolest thing. I'm
That
like,
is really
"Oh my god, is that me?"
That is beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was very cool.
so is this so? I mean, maybe I'm popping around a little too much. Maybe I'm popping over some history here, but what was your first conversation? I know there was a little backstory, and maybe we can flash back to that after you answer my question.
Sure.
Your first conversation with your birth mother, what was that like? And I know, and then there's a little backstory as to what happened before that, but I would like just to know. I didn't ask this of you before. What was that like? And was it on a
Um,
phone or was it in person or what
it
was it?
it was pretty funny. So I want to start by saying this. A year ago today,
Oh,
so on the 5th, well, a year ago today, I was waiting for my results still
oh wow.
from Ancestry. So hasn't even been
Okay.
a year that I've had them. And the very first conversation, it was kind of funny because the very first reach out was from my sister, and it was on Facebook. And my brother doesn't have Facebook. And so it was from my sister. And then, and she was like, "Is it okay to?" I'm like, "Of course it's okay." Yes, it's okay. Um, and then you know, she was, once she told my brother and sister, and once she kind of grasped onto it, because I'm sure it was such a big, oh my God, what's happening event, right? I don't know how it
Right.
couldn't have been, but
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
I think then it was, we would love to meet you. And I mean, just started the ball rolling right away. It was fantastic
Awesome.
experience. Um, so yeah, at first it was a shock at first to all of them. My
So
first contact, and
was it all
I
three
can
of them? Was it all three of them getting together with you or was it your mom first? Or was it all of them
So,
together?
nope, all of
Okay.
us got together at the same time. On
Okay.
January 8th of last year was the first time we met. So, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna back up because I wanna finish one part of the
Yes.
story that I think is super important. I'm gonna back up to going back to when I was 13 and I had gotten that information.
Awesome.
So, I wanna finish, I'm gonna finish one part of it just to get everybody caught up to when we met and what's happened since then.
All right.
Because I don't want to forget. That's why. I don't want to forget what I've
Forgive me.
said yet.
I'm so impatient, so
Oh,
I'll let you
yeah.
talk. I'm sorry.
Um, no, it's
But
okay. So
I might interrupt you again.
you
Oh,
can. So one of the things that after I got that, I said I had a sister and I knew I was from a big family. Then it kind of calmed down for a while because I knew some information and I knew all of what they had. Essentially, they meaning Catholic Charities, because it gave me some information. And then a few other years went by, and um, so that was around age 13, 14. And then you get into high school years and whatever. And I was growing up, and none of that curiosity ever goes away. It never goes away. It never did for me.
right.
And so I got older and I started having children, and there happened to be a little bit of a medical concern that I needed to look into, a medical thing that popped up, and it's like that can be genetic, and so I needed
Okay.
to look into that. And one of the things that I did then, and I was around 25, 26 years old, and I um I was like, I have to share this because if it can be genetic, that means that people in I knew I'm from a large family, but they need to know that. They need to know that something else can happen, whether they want to meet me or not. I just want to give the
Mhm.
file, right? My file
Right.
at Catholic Charities, this information, because
Sure.
my brother was adopted through Lutheran Social Services, and every time he would get something like a letter or anything from the birth family side, it would go into a folder and they would keep it at the adoption agency for him. And they'd contact my parents until my brother was old enough to make the decision himself. And my parents would always say, hey, another letter went into the file. Do you want it? And he'd say no, of course, because he didn't want it. And then here's me. Why? Why do you not want it?
What's wrong with
Any
you?
letters? Why don't
You
you?
have no curiosity? What's
I
up?
know. I'm just like, I wish it was the opposite, but it never was. But so I called Catholic Charities to give them this information about this health thing that came up when I started having children, and ran into another roadblock where they said, now keep in mind, I'm 25, 26 years old, and I'm trying to do the right thing by give medical information. And Catholic Charities says to me, well, in order to open your file, your adoption file, or pull your records, we need a percentage of your income. And I'm like, you need a percentage of my income for me to give you what potentially can be life or death information about people that should know this. It just was so upsetting to me that I couldn't believe it. And at that age, I couldn't give a percentage of my income. I was a new mom and I couldn't do it. So that made me angry and I stopped that. So there was another roadblock, right? And the
Well, they
first
made it
wasn't.
impossible for you to get in touch. They're just making it
Yes,
impossible.
they were making it hard. And it's not that the first one was a roadblock, but I say roadblock in the sense that for me, I wanted more information, right? I wanted,
Yeah,
this is what she looks like. This is what he looks like.
of course.
So it wasn't really a roadblock, but nonetheless, not all the information that I wanted at 13. And then having them tell me that I need X amount of dollars or whatever it is, and apply and do, and it just was ridiculous to me. So it upset me. So I stopped there. Then a few years goes by again, and this big hoopla about adopted children should have the right to their medical records. And I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was quite a big movement or something. Somebody was trying to get it so that you could get your medical records. And one of the
Makes
things
total
that was,
sense.
and one of the things that was coming out of this was the ability to also be able to get or get a copy of your original birth certificate.
Okay.
So then I'm like, ooh, if I got that, I'm like a private investigator. I could go figure out, I could,
Sure.
look at what their
Yes.
names are and try to find them. But
Yep.
what that meant was that on both sides had to sign some sort of, and again, I don't know all the specifics because I ran into a roadblock again, but they had to sign a waiver. I had to sign a waiver saying I could release information and she was okay releasing information. And if those two matched, if they had both information releases from both sides, then I could get my birth certificate, my original. And I got the letter back saying, nope, that wasn't signed. It wasn't signed. So I'm like, God, for God's sake, I can't win for, I can't win for time. Anyway, it was years of just being like, what does somebody have to do to even just,
I can't imagine,
figure something out? Well, and then as a kid, you're like, maybe it's that they don't want to meet me. Sure. Maybe they just don't want to meet me. Maybe they, I thought she might have other kids. I knew she had one other kid, and who knew if my sister knew about me because she was only one, Right. So, and back then, even when I was in, middle school and high school and kids would get pregnant, they ship them off and you never knew where they went. And all of a sudden they'd reappear. And it's like, nobody talked
and nothing
about
was
where
said.
they were.
Nothing was said.
Nope. Nobody
Yeah.
talked about where they were, what happened to them, nothing. And that was sad. And so I started thinking, well, maybe that's what it is, because she she hasn't said anything, and maybe she just doesn't want to, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know. And so then this ancestry thing starts coming out, and it's you spit in a vial and send it away, and you got to wait 6 weeks. And I'm like, God, 5 to 6 weeks is just horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Totally ignoring the fact that 51 years now have gone by, and I
Right,
haven't
but
I don't have any
just can't
answers.
wait one more day, right?
Right. But 5 to 6 weeks is going to kill me. But so then we get to that point, and I had been talking with some friends, and they're like, we were talking about adoption, and the fact that one of my friends, he had met his he found out that he had a sister, and he did the ancestry, and that's how he found out. And he's like, Dad, did you forget to tell me something? So we were just having a conversation about that, and he's like, why aren't you doing it? And I go, I don't know, because because I think I had it in my head for the longest time that maybe I would be the one disrupting them, or I just,
You were just overthinking
well, and I didn't
a little
want,
bit.
nobody wants rejection either.
No,
Nobody wants rejection. So no
no.
matter how positive you are, nobody wants that rejection,
No.
at thinking that it'll be a bad thing. You just would rather not know than have the rejection. And I think that's how I just went about things. And then he challenged me. He's like, you need to do this. I'm like, well, all right. He's like, you've been waiting for how long? So it was funny. So I ordered the kit, and it came to my house, and it sat on my desk.
Oh, wow.
And I stared at this stupid thing for days. I'm like, ooh, God, I got to do that. So I did it, and it's a spit in a vial, like a COVID test, and you spit in it, and she might have left. Anyway, you spit in a vial, and you send it away to Ancestry. And basically what happens is you have to wait 5 to 6 weeks for the results. And then what ends up happening is you're dying for 5 to 6 weeks watching for an email, and you have to create an account. And so you're constantly waiting for this email to come to tell you that they know that your results are in. I'm still talking about how it worked with my results. So after about 5 weeks, I get an email, and it says, your results are in. And I'm like, oh my God. So it was funny. So because I work from home, and my son at the time, he was 18, was here. And I'm going to back up, first of all. So when I did the test, it sat on my desk forever. Not forever, for what seemed like forever, like a few days. And my other half came over and said, and saw it on my desk and said, I didn't know you did that. He goes, you have Ancestry sitting there, or something to that effect. And I said, yeah. And he goes, did you do it? I'm like, yeah. He goes, do you want me to mail it? I'm like, yeah. So he took it that day, and
wow.
he took it into so thank God, your other half knows what the kick in the butt when you need it. So he took it and sent it in for me. And then getting to the, you're waiting 5 to 6 weeks. And now jump ahead to what I was saying is I got this email that said your results are in. And so I called him, I called my daughter, and I screamed down the hall for my son and said, come here. You know how well a 18-year-old wants to come when their mother is yelling at them. Not at all. And so I said, I have my results. And he's like, oh, okay. So he comes and sits next to me, and we open the results of Ancestry.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's kind of funny because you think it's going to be like this. Oh my gosh, look at this. When in reality, it's, oh my gosh, look at this. A boatload of names that don't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So I be a genealogist to figure it out.
I'm like, well, okay, cool. There's a bunch of names. But what it did do was, if anybody know what Ancestry does, it links you and gives you percentages based on how much of a link you are to that person, right? And I had one that was 20, I want to say 28%, and which seemed really low to me. And I'm like, shouldn't it be like bigger than that? Anyway, so so we're looking through this whole thing, and then the investigative work clicks in, right? And what you can do on Ancestry is, I'm looking at all these names that don't mean a darn thing to me, and then you start looking on Facebook and you start googling everybody. Well, the last name is Turner. So good Lord. Everybody that I was Googling, nobody's a Turner.
I knew a Turner in
nobody's
Oklahoma.
not a Turner that you're, it could be anybody that you're Googling. There's a boatload of Turners. So I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. So then what I did was I picked the top 5 people on my list on Ancestry, and you can email them. So I emailed them. And I just said, hey, we match.
We're a match.
We have a link. You matched to me. Do you think that you would be willing to help me know how I'm connected with, or how we're connected? I was trying to be very vague and not scare anybody. Because I kept thinking, this is my only shot. This is my only shot to try to figure out, something. And so I was being very careful. And it was funny because, now remember, I'm going to keep referring back to this. Remember when I was 13, I got that letter saying that my birth mom's family was very large.
Right.
And not thinking, right? My birth family, if they get married, they're going to have a different name, right? So I wasn't thinking about that. But anyway, so I start looking, and all of these people are Turners on so I'm like, this must be my birth mom's side. I have no idea. So anyway, I'm just making stuff up as we go because it sounded good. So, so I sent a message to the top 5 people asking them the same thing. Are you willing to meet with me? And there was one person that replied, and her name's Leanne. And she turned out to be my birth dad's half sister.
Okay.
So, we were going back and forth, and it was comical in the beginning. And she said, well, maybe it would be easier for you to tell me what side you belong. And I'm like, that would make it really easy, but I can't tell you that either. I have no idea. And so I started out by saying, why don't I tell you a little bit about myself? And I just went on to tell her that I was born in 1971. I was adopted at 1 month. Here's where I grew up. I just gave her all my information. And I received a response back from her, and she basically asked me if I was sitting down. We lost Faye again. She'll be back. She basically asked me if I was sitting down, and then said, oh my God, I know who you are. And it turned out that her and my dad had a very good relationship, and she somehow knew of me, that I was given up for adoption. And she told of my dad and his siblings, and just gave me some history on my birth dad side of the family. And then also was the key to giving me the name of my birth mom. And so she was the one that told me I had what my mother's name was, my sister, and also told me that I had a brother that I knew nothing about, because back when I was 13, the only thing at the time of adoption was I had a sister. And so at that time, because it's so high level information that I received, I didn't know if they got married. I didn't know if they were together. I had no idea. And so to hear Leanne tell me that I not only had that my mom was still living, that I had a sister and a brother, it was awesome. And so she
I'm
gave me
sure.
their names. So immediately, investigative person here, I start Googling and looking on Facebook, and I will never forget. She told me, she said, your birth mom's name is Patty Ostema. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I went and Googled her, and sure enough, she pops up on Facebook. And my family was looking at it and went, there is no
No
there
doubt.
is no denying that at all. It was hilarious that for the first time I pulled up that Facebook page of my mom, and I had so many questions answered. I knew where my big hair came from. I knew where my looks came from. It just was. I knew what my sister looked like. I didn't know what my
Mhm.
brother looked like because he's a pain in the butt and he doesn't like to have pictures taken.
Mhm.
Uh, but nonetheless, I was able to just
So,
seeing
I'm
that.
gonna
Like, oh
I'm
my
gonna
God.
be brave. I keep on getting kicked out, as you all have noticed, and I think it's on my side, but let me just try, and I'm gonna put up your mom, Patty,
Yeah.
with the son when she's young, very young.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Look at her.
It's
Look
so
at that
cute.
look at that hair.
I know, right?
Look at that little baby boy.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So adorable. So I'm gonna remove this before I get kicked out again, but isn't that cool?
I love that picture.
That's a wonderful
Such a great
picture.
picture. And then
Yeah.
do you have that one of both of us?
Yes, of you and your brother?
No, me and my mom.
Oh, you and your mom.
Yeah. It's the one where I put them both on the same picture.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, you mean as babies?
No.
No.
Did I give that to you?
Oh, you know what? You did give me that, and that was the only one that would not convert real well.
Oh,
So
shoot.
because it was like one on top of the other. And it didn't work. It wouldn't go. I
That's all
couldn't
right.
fix it. So
That's all right. No, because because you can see the,
I'm gonna just put up the bio siblings though. Your here.
yeah.
Let me just do that.
Yeah.
That's your sister and your brother.
My sister and my brother. Yep.
Isn't that
Which is
beautiful?
crazy. For the first time, I knew how I look alike. It's like, wow, look at that.
That just makes my heart, it's wonderful.
That was the first day we met.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. That was the first day.
Okay. I'm gonna see what else I can pull up here. And just keep talking. If I get kicked out, I'll be back.
Yeah. No.
You know what I'm
You keep
saying?
talking.
You'll
Um,
keep talking.
so I'm trying to think of where I was. When I pulled up her Facebook page.
Yeah.
So it was funny. So then I pull up her Facebook page, and
Mhm.
uh now I know that that's my birth mom, right? And
Mhm.
it was funny because that's Joe and I. It's just we're both wearing red, and
Well,
I'm
yeah.
much fatter, but
Well, but you look, look at that. You
you
look like you're
know.
about the same age in babyhood. And there's Joe, your bio brother, and
Yep.
you, right?
Yep.
Look at that. The smile is the same. Isn't that just awesome?
It's just crazy.
I know, right?
It's
It's
crazy.
wonderful. Yeah.
Um
Okay.
so then it was funny because I'm a private investigator now at this point, and I'm going to find everybody. Um so then I start looking at all of the pictures that I have access to online on
Mhm.
on my birth mom's page. And one thing that I have learned about my family is that they are fabulous with tagging each other, and thank
Oh,
God they do,
yeah.
because that was that was my key to verifying that I had the right person. And
Oh my gosh.
so I'm looking through her pages, and remember, I had said to everybody, remember the conversation, or remember when I said at 13 I got that piece of paper that
Mhm.
didn't give me a whole lot of information, but gave me your birth mom had this many siblings and whatever. Well, I took that piece of paper out when I was looking at my mom's Facebook page, looking through her stuff. And
Mhm.
on this sheet, I started reading where it said she had 5 sisters and she had 1 brother. And this picture was on her Facebook page. And I went, oh, ding, ding, ding.
Look at all
There
that
she is.
hair.
I know.
So which one is your mom? Which one is
She
Patty?
is, she's on the bottom in the white shirt.
I knew it.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Oh my god.
so it's hilarious. So that piece of paper that when I was a kid didn't mean anything other than I had a sister and I'm from a big family, helped identify when I saw all of those people. There were
Mhm.
6 girls and 1 boy. And I was just like, oh my God, it makes sense now. And so
Mhm.
everything started to click a little bit more and make more sense. And it was just great. And so then it was funny because as I'm looking through all of these people that are tagged in these pictures, I start looking up thinking, okay, in that picture there that you just had up, there were most of them were tagged in that picture. I believe it was that picture they were tagged in. Excuse me. And then so what I started doing was trying to make sense of who was who. And so I knew that there was, sisters and what their names were. And so now I started looking on their Facebook page because, I'm a private
Right?
investigator and I'm doing all this. And so,
Yes. Yes.
so I come across, all these, seeing if you share any common friends with any of them. And
Yeah.
sure enough, all of a sudden I click on one and it's her sister Kathy, which is the oldest, her older
Wow.
sister. And so I clicked on it and I'm like, oh my God, I share a friend with her. And so I look and it happens to be a friend of mine, a distant, somebody that I knew. I didn't really hang out with them a whole lot, but nonetheless, I was friends with her and we went to high school together.
Right?
And so, so I'm like, I got a messenger. And I just said, hey, can I ask you, my friend, I said, how do you know this lady, Kathy? And she ended up telling me that her husband is friends with Kathy's son. And she's great. And the family is wonderful. And now she's talking about my family. And I'm like, oh my
Oh
God,
my gosh.
she knows my family. So
God.
I'm like, okay. So then she goes, why were you wondering? And I just said, well, I had done ancestry and it's aiming that direction to the family. I don't know how. Well, yes, I did, but I was trying to
Yeah.
be, I was,
Yeah.
I was trying
You're
to
not
be
ready to disclose
right,
everything. Yeah.
divulge everything. And so I thought, okay, so I just want to be nonchalant about it. And she's like, well, do you want me to get you connected with her? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I do.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So,
I'd like that.
yep. And so she
Yeah.
did. She reached out to Kathy and she said, hey, I went to school with this girl and I don't know everything she said, but and she thinks that she might be related somehow. Would you be willing to talk to her? And Kathy was like, yeah, I'd be willing. So then I get a message from this gal again and she said, hey, I just got off the phone with Kathy and she's willing to talk to you. And pretty soon this thing pops up on Facebook where she's got us 3 connected on a message, like a
Oh,
message
no.
board.
Oh, yeah, like a group
And I'm
deal.
like, oh my God, okay. So it's like I'm talking to my aunt and she doesn't even know it.
Right.
And so I basically, and I can't remember the specifics, but this conversation was hilarious, and I'll tell you why. So I first said, she asked me what side I thought, and she was thinking either her husband's side or her side. And I said, I really don't know. And so
Mhm.
I said, I can tell you that I was adopted and whatever. And then she started asking me questions, and it was pretty funny because I think she already knew, but she was testing me. And my aunt Kathy is very spicy as well, which again,
There you go.
I get it.
Hello.
But she basically was kind of asking, well, how do you know your parents and everything, then I was like, God, why doesn't she just give me the information? And so I'm like, fine, here it goes. So I basically wrote a paragraph, and mind you, I'm going to back up for a second. Before we started really going back and forth, I took off, like I started a new chat with just Kathy and I, because I didn't think she wanted my friend to be involved.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
I
Right.
didn't want that to be divulged unless
Yeah.
it was the
Unless
right
Kathy was.
time.
Yeah.
So we were on a private message, and I just said, I just didn't know if you wanted to keep her in this with us. And so anyway, and then I said, fine, you're not going to give me the information. I'm going to spill it to you. And I said, I was adopted. I was born April 20th. I mean, I just went on and on. And I said, I know that my birth mother has 5 sisters and 1 brother.
Oh, wow.
And I just threw it all out there. And I thought, ooh, now what's going to happen? And she came back and she said, let me get back to you in a couple days. I have to look into something.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And I'm like,
Now.
I got her. I got her. I got
Yeah.
her. And the
She
funny
knows.
thing, when I first met her, that was pretty funny too. So then a few days goes by, and she gets in touch with me again. She said, I'll get in touch with you in a few days or whatever. And so I'm watching like a hawk, waiting for any response from her whatsoever. And all the while it's like, this is kind of surreal, right? It's like, oh, that's a funny comment. So I was thinking, I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope I hear from her soon, right? And so I get a message back, and it starts with, well, Nicole, it didn't take me long to know who you are. I know your mother, and I've talked to her. And I just went, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first thing was that she asked me to back off because I needed to give my birth mom time to talk to her kids and her family. And again, this is one of those things where it goes back to, and this is just my feeling, but it goes back to, we're talking the 70s, the early 70s, where nobody talked about this. And right, wrong, or indifferent, agree, disagree, she had her reasons for not telling and not sharing
Right.
with
Right.
certain people. And I will never, ever be upset
No.
with that decision. I
No.
respect it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it needed to happen like that. So
Mhm.
I will say this, I was absolutely crushed and heartbroken when I read that. I was like, oh my God.
I lost her.
I'm
Yeah.
so close. I'm so close
Yeah.
after all these years. I'm so close, and now I have to stop. It's like, damn, I don't want to stop,
No.
but
No.
I had to respect that. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. So now I can fit the pieces together on what happened, because I do know them, and we've talked about it and laughed about it. And what ended up happening is Kathy went back to her sister and just said, your daughter is looking for you, and she contacted me and she wants to meet you. And one of the very first things was, why now? And it was the whole discussion of, because I'm not waiting until it's too late. And then it was, okay, so she needs to go, talk to her kid, my brother and sister.
Mhm.
And she did, and they immediately reached out to me. And I'm
Mhm.
condensing this a little bit, but so they immediately reached out, and I actually had received a message from my mom when she was ready. She reached out to me on Messenger and just said, um, you know, I I really want to meet you, and we all have talked, and whatever. If you're still willing to meet us, I would love that. And it was funny. Of course, I was like, oh my gosh, it's my birth month.
Well,
That
yeah.
right on my screen, she's typing to me, and I'm
Oh,
like, oh my
yeah.
gosh. And that was great. And then all of a sudden another little thing would pop up, and it was my sister. I'm like, oh my God, it's my
There
sister.
there's two of them all
It
at
it
once.
was it was the greatest, but such an overwhelming feeling. I can't even, I will never
Yeah.
forget that feeling of, oh my God, what a blessing. And I
Yes.
can't even believe I'm here after
I know.
51 years.
Good for
I
you.
finally got to meet my family. And
Oh, wow.
and then I'll tell you funny too. So
Yes, please do.
this is right around Christmas time. So it was the 27th, actually, the 27th. Anyway, I'll back up and say this. So I'm singing in a band, and while
Yep.
all this is happening, we have our Christmas, and we after Christmas, my band is doing a show at the Lookout. And by now, everybody knows I sing in a band because you could see me. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yep.
known. And
It's on your Facebook.
so
Yes.
so my birth mom went and noticed I was singing at the Lookout. And I find out later that she showed up at the Lookout the day
Wow.
I was playing before I met her, and she was spying on me. Best
She wanted to
thing
make sure
ever.
you were good at what you did.
I think that's so funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, that's so me. I would have done the same thing. I would have spied on you.
Oh,
She said,
right?
I was so scared. I was hiding in different rooms. Because if you've ever been at the Lookout, there's multiple different rooms and multiple areas you can hide behind.
Oh, I see. Well, that
And
is so
she
funny.
was hiding. Oh, it was the best. It was the best to find that out. And my
And then
brother and
she
sister thought she was absolutely insane for going. And um, but I
well,
giggled because I thought, oh my God, that's just like me.
well, yeah, well, yeah, she's
She
Patty.
is, yes, it is. She's great. She's
And I
just
love
so
that you
great.
say and I'm glad you told that story because that just kinda shows the personality of Patty. Oh, here she is.
That's awesome. So yes, it was great. I still laugh at that, and she still goes with me to the Lookout, and we giggle about that all the time. So um I tell you, it was, and then it was funny. I do have to say this. My daughter and my other half, Mike, and a bunch of friends were there on the 30th as well. And my daughter says to me when we find out, I knew we should have. Why weren't we looking? We would have known it was her. We would have known. We would have been able to tell. So the fact that we had started this whole process and then didn't think that maybe she'd be like me or I'd be like her and show up uh,
Uh-huh.
was crazy. So we should have known that. But
Yeah. So,
nonetheless,
all your worries before when you were performing, all over the Twin Cities and you were wondering if any of your
yeah,
family were out there, she did that very
she
thing.
did.
She did that very thing.
It's awesome. That was
I
awesome.
know.
So,
That's so
so
cool.
the so then the Christmas goes by and everything, and we decide to meet, and the very first chance, and it was awesome because they were like, we want to meet yesterday. I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. And so um I, I jumped right on that. I'm like, yeah, hey, well, let's meet. And so we did, January 8th, and this January 8th will be exactly a year when I met them. And I cannot tell you how incredibly blessed I am to, uh, this family is by far such a blessing.
Yeah.
Uh, I have a I have a mom that is uh, so genuine, and here's the thing. I'm going to say this. I, I missed out. I did. I missed out growing up without her. Uh, but I'll tell you this. Um, I got to meet her as an adult, and I get to develop a relationship with her as an adult, being her kid. But we still are adults. And there's my Vicky. Vicky is my cousin, and
Okay.
she is, uh, and so is Debbie. And I just can't say enough. I missed out. I'm going to finish this thought. I missed out on growing up with her, but one of the biggest blessings is being able to develop a relationship with my mom that I can know as an adult and get to spend time with. And I tell you, uh, there is no doubt. Not only I look like her, but there is no doubt at all where my loudness comes from, and my spunky attitude, and my I always was the one in my family, my adopted family, that was so much louder than everybody else. And it always made me think, God, is something wrong? What's wrong with me? Something's wrong with
Nothing's wrong with you.
me. But and it wasn't a bad thing. It's just different, right?
Yeah. You're
My
just so
my
different.
my adopted family just wasn't that. And that's okay.
Right.
Um, but I always wondered where it came from. And
Mhm.
I never ever realized um blood is it doesn't have to be blood to be love and be family,
Right.
but it definitely is more than just blood. I mean, I never spent a day with these people until I met them on the 8th, and I act like them. I There's just no doubt where I
Mhm.
come from, and she must have done it when I was pregnant. It's something when she was pregnant with me, she did something.
She
Because
must have, knowing
I
Patty. So, so would you recommend to others to do this?
um you know, hands down I would. And I'm gonna say this. Um I jumped in I jumped in doing this because obviously as a kid growing up into adulthood, not having those questions answered and being so adamant about one day I'm going to find them, and I'm going to stop running into roadblocks and it's going to work. Being so adamant about that, never giving up, because I never gave up. There
Mm-mm.
was delays, but it's because I didn't, it's like, God, what else do I do? How many times am I going to run
Right.
into something, But the
Right.
thing is that I jumped in full speed ahead, and thank God. Um, I thank God all the time that I jumped to people that were willing to open their arms and their hearts up to me,
Mhm.
um, because they didn't have to do that.
No.
Um, it could have been different. It really could have been. It could have been a
Yep.
situation where, and this happens all the time, where somebody doesn't want to meet their their relative that they gave up, or for whatever reason, adoption, separation, you don't know your family members, whatever. There is always that chance that somebody is not going to embrace you as you want. um and that's okay. It hurts that, and there's a little bit of that right now that's happening, and that's because time's gone by, right? The newness wears off, and all of a sudden you're looking at things, and this is a huge thing. This isn't just like a new toy that you bought at the store. It's a whole lifestyle thing. It's a change in your whole person,
Fa-
your
and
being.
family dynamics
Right.
as well. Hmm.
Exactly. And so to get back to your question, would I say do this? 1,000% over. Even if I didn't have the family that opened their arms and did that, it would have given me, as a person that's adopted, it would have given me closure. The
Yeah.
fact that I am so incredibly blessed by the family that I that I have found, it's
What a wonderful Christmas, and
it
what a
it
wonderful
it
and
is
what and
it
what a
is.
wonderful thing and a gift you gave yourself and a gift you
Oh
gave
yeah,
to that family, and I can't believe we've been on the show for an hour and a half.
I know. Isn't that crazy? It's
Yes.
crazy.
I mean, I am so, I think, oh, here, I have to tell you what mom says. Patty says, "I am so blessed that you are back in my life and that you never gave up on me. I love you more than you could ever imagine." There she is.
That's my mama.
That's your mommy.
And I do, I just have to say, I'm glad people joined this, because I think it's so important to share stories like that. And
Me
and
too.
I would just say, don't ever give up on what your heart tells you to do. And
Never. And
it's nothing worth. And I live by this: nothing worth it is ever easy,
no.
no matter
And
what.
and another
So,
thing, it doesn't happen in a day. It
oh my
doesn't
god,
no, no, something that is so worth doing sometimes doesn't happen in a day.
yeah.
It happens in several days, in years. And look at what happened. It is such a blessing. And I am
Oh god,
I
yes.
am blessed to know you. I am blessed to know your mother. I love you and I love her and I'm so glad you came uh to join me on my show
I
and
am
I
too.
oh look at you, Patty. Miss you, Faye and Roger. I know. We
Does
miss you too.
anybody, before we go, does anybody have a question or any
Yeah.
question?
We have a couple of minutes here. Do you have
Yeah.
anything you'd like to ask or anything like that? You're welcome to ask. If not, I think you really covered a lot of ground and I mean, and thank you for helping me with my show because I got kicked off 3 times. Oh my gosh. But you kept on going. I don't even
I
know how you
did.
did it.
I
Yeah.
did. I have a lot to say.
Well, you do, and I'm
I have a
glad
lot
you
to
kn
say, but it's
well, it's
awesome.
wonderful to be a performer because you don't leave the stage when things go, bad, right? When the lights go down or anything,
Yeah. We
you
stand
stay
there and
there.
just look at each other going,
So,
hey,
when's your next gig in case people are in the Twin Cities and they can go see you in your band? When's your
on
next
the
gig?
15th at the Lookout. We sing at the Lookout a lot,
Which
once
is
a
at
month
in
in
Maple
Maple
Grove,
Grove. Yep.
and your show starts at what, 9 o'clock?
9. Yep. So take a nap
Take
before.
a nap, eat something, come
Oh, they have great food. She's
and
welcome.
they have great food, okay.
They do. It's great food.
Well, thank you everyone for joining me today and joining and a lot of your relatives I know are on this show
Yeah.
today, and it's been a blessing to have you. And so I hope to see you, Roger is trying to get better
Yes.
and we hope that he's back after some work, and rest. And as you saw, he came in this cameo appearance.
I love that.
He could not be here. So well, with all that, we're gonna have to say goodbye.
Sounds good.
And until next time, love
Yes.
you,
Love you
love you,
too.
and goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for
Watch us
hanging.
tomorrow. Yeah, we do have a show again on Latino Psychic Visions Facebook page. It's called Latino Psychic Visions. Roger, my husband, is a psychic medium. If you want to check us out, please do that. And everybody, love you all.